Hi, folks. Welcome to Edge of Pandora, episode 14. Blessing to be with you on this great journey. Again, we're not coming at you live today, unfortunately, but this is premiered and recorded. We have got a very, very treasured, exciting guest with us. You've probably all heard about her, Patricia Cori, who is just an amazing young woman, amazing woman. And we're going to talk about a lot of things today, sort of under the umbrella of one of her latest books. She's got many. We'll send lots of links in the description to her work. But her latest book, The New Sirian Revelations, Galactic Prophecies, is very, very interesting. Now, I haven't read that yet, disclaimer, but I'm excited to have that sort of as the umbrella of the show as we get into a lot of other stuff as well. But Patricia is a best-selling author. She's an earth activist, a public speaker. She's been doing a work for, I think, well over 2 decades now, a long time. She's just mentioned to me actually on the pre-show, to us on the pre-show, that her early works about teaching the activation of DNA was probably one of the first works of that in modern times. If that's true, then wonderful. I can certainly believe that it may be, judging by how powerful her work is. But she's been interviewed a number of times. She's been on CNN. She's been on many different shows, Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, and she is just a treasured teacher and soul at this time of the Great Awakening. So, Patricia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. The honor is all mine and the pleasure.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Hey.
Well, Kiara, I'm going to toss the mic over to you, my friend, if you want to lead things off, and we'll get going here.
Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome again, Patricia. And just a reminder for our listeners, this whole series has been about examining who we are, what we are, where we come from, where we're going, looking at some of these deeper questions so we can move together into a co-creation. We have been co-creating so much already. Unfortunately, much of it has been mired in a state of duality, and we're breaking out of that. And this is the richness of these times. This is such a precious time for all of us. So, this conversation with Patricia is, something that we wanted to co-create so we can maybe go deeper into this process of awakening, ascension, descension, all at the same time. One of the documentaries that Patricia made, which I was watching yesterday, which really touched me, was on whales and dolphins. And, that's been such a big part of my own life. And maybe at some point I can share some of my own journeys with the whales and the dolphins. But one of the things about the cetaceans, I feel, is that they represent the right brain of Gaia, where humans represent the left brain. And so this relationship that we're developing, more consciously with the whales and the dolphins has to do with connecting with the wholeness of Gaia. And so, Patricia, onwards to you. Anything you'd like to say about how you see this, and also maybe an update, because in the documentary you talked about what's happening in the oceans with the ELF frequencies, the Navy experiments, the sonar, and so on. And so if you have any update on that, because they're such precious being and we owe it to ourselves, to Gaia, to them, to protect them, to hold them in this space of honor and wholeness together.
Thank you for loving them.
Mm.
I've been an advocate for the whales and dolphins for so long, I can't even remember, but many years ago, I started to receive messages from them in the form of an appeal. It started as appeal. I was waking up in the middle of the night, drowning. I think I discussed that in the video. The feeling of being in the middle of the ocean and drowning with them and beaching myself with them, and knowing that it was on purpose, that they were giving up, and that they were trying also to escape the abusive sound, the horrific sonar, because their audio oral cavity is so delicate that it has to be to receive the song, whale to whale, dolphin to dolphin, hundreds of miles. I don't know if you know this, but a humpback whale can communicate with a humpback whale on the other side of the planet. They have a relay system where they sing a certain frequency, or what I was confusing frequency and sequence. I'm having a tongue twister here. But they will sing a certain sequence that can be 20, 25 minutes, almost like an opera sonata. And then that will be received 100 miles away. That a group of whales will start singing that, and so on. So it's like a relay system around the planet. And the council, the whales sit on the Syrian High Council. They're known as the Walkie. And they, because they have such such sensitive equipment, and we know that they're telepathic and psychic too, but this system of sound communication, they've shared with me unequivocally, is about holding the ocean music, the vibratory frequency of the oceans in balance. And we know that the waters of the earth are the emotional balance of the planet. Water is emotion. So what they've been saying is, if we can't do our job, if we are not free to do this balancing, perpetual balancing of the music of the oceans and all the love there, then the planet isn't going to find its way back to balance. That's the first thing I want to share. And we started to touch on this before we went on the air, how this moment, I call it the demonic, has negative aspects, but one beautiful thing that it has provided is getting humanity out of the way for a minute here so that Earth Mother can rejuvenate. So the animals are proliferating. I've seen so many videos of wild peacocks walking down the streets in Madrid going, where are the humans? Many animals walking through the towns, warthogs walking through the towns in Italy, and the whales and dolphins proliferating. Many more humpbacks than normal. In fact, something very exciting happened recently. Well, it's interesting, and that is that in the Tenerife area, you have orcas attacking sailboats. Why? And of course, interestingly, that's very similar with the theme of one of my books, The Emissary. Why are they doing that? Because they were so used to having humans out of the way, ships out of the way, and the noise out of the way, that since we've started reopening, they're shocked that they have to deal with it. They thought it was over. They thought, oh my God, we've won. And the rejoicing of that, oh my God, we're free at last. And then boom, here we are, slowly adding on the noise and coming back. And so they've been attacking, orcas have been attacking ships to the point that some of them were afraid of absolutely capsizing, being pushed and pulled in the water.
Wow.
So my message about that is that we need to protect the whales and dolphins, not only for them, because as they've told me, and I've shared with everyone, they will move ahead regardless, whether they're still in the 3 or 4D Earth, whether they've moved on to higher dimensions, they will be fulfilling their work, which is the music holders of the galaxy. But a certain number of them need to be here while we're in this transitional period so that they can keep the emotional body of planet Earth, the mother, intact, so that while the human race is going through its paces, Earth Mother emotionally is unscathed.
Beautiful. Absolutely wonderful.
Patricia, I've been taking people out to the Red Sea every year to swim with dolphins.
Wonderful.
And this year, because of all this pandemonic, as you say, There's been very few people going out there, very few boats. And I'm sure it's been such a break for them to be able to, I mean, of course, they love being around humans if you're conscious and
Yeah,
if you're with them in a state.
I've heard there's an
because they
island
want-
in South. So sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I heard there's an island somewhere in South America where the humans go swimming with the dolphins right off the shore.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
since they've been gone, the dolphins have been coming in really, really close and bringing great gifts, shiny pebbles, corals, and leaving them on the beach. Like, please come back, we miss you. Which
Right,
touches
right.
me so deeply.
Yeah.
But there's that duality of knowing that they have to have their world and that we don't want to interfere in that world. And yet, when love transcends all of that, love transcends species and the rules. So I too bring people swimming with dolphins here in the Azores. And this was the first year in a decade that I haven't been able to do that.
Amazing.
Let's
Amazing. Well, let's just go back a tiny bit, Patricia. I want to ask you because I'm curious, and I haven't watched enough of your videos and work to remember this. But take us back to sort of some of your early memories of waking up, because I know, and we'll get into some work with the Syrian High Council that you're doing and have done. What was sort of some of the first experiences of you awakening to some of these esoteric abilities and gifts that we all have and wake up to at different times? But how did that happen for you? When did you sort of first start to wake up to the spirituality that we're living in now?
When I was born, I came out laughing. My mother said that the doctor, she was in delirium, but that when the first slap came, I started laughing. And I've been laughing ever since.
Amazing.
But I didn't have a typical wake up time because I was a very psychic child and I had the support of an extraordinary mother, my soulmate, who saw it and understood it. So from birth, from the laughing birth to early childhood, I was speaking. And by the way, thank you for the young woman comment, but I'm actually not so young. But at the age of 4, and we're talking about the 50s, before anything resembling language of light was available. I mean, we were barely getting TV at that point. I walked into the kitchen and I said to my mother, I'm from a parallel universe. And she kind of freaked out, as one would. And she said, I'm sorry, honey. And she told me that she was holding a pan of spaghetti sauce at the time, because we're Italian, and that she almost dropped it. What do you mean? Because I was 4. I said, I'm from a parallel universe, and I understand that you're not ready to know that yet, but you just need to know that I know. And there you go. And I walked out. And so I was open, and I never had to reopen. I was open from childhood and extremely psychic. And in fact, I found it very interesting that growing up, I never realized that other people did not have these gifts because they were natural to me. I didn't know that people didn't see auric fields and energy and all these things because nobody told me that that's what they weren't seeing that. So I grew up really for the longest time not understanding that these were gifts. And it was a beautiful passage and process when I realized that and was able to use them through so many important times of my life. But the big thing I think you're looking for, the big kaboom moment, was in 1997. I went into a crop circle. It was called the Julius set. It was monumental. It was the most important crop circle. Well, that's because I call it my crop circle, but it was really a shift in the whole crop circle phenomenon in intensity and quality. And I got called into it for a long story that I won't take time to explain, but I dreamt it and then they took me to it. And when I went into that crop circle, I went out completely. I fell into the circle. I went out. I was out for 2.5 hours, and I watched my body disintegrate. The physicality of my body. I was looking at my legs and I saw them disappearing. It was a really spooky experience. And I heard music and my spinning, the sound of whirring music, and my legs disappearing. And I realized I was being gifted to actually experience myself shifting out of physicality into a higher dimension. And then I was out. And when I came back 2.5 hours later, I had been attuned by the Syrian High Council in that journey. That's when the channeling started in 1996. And what a journey.
Wow.
So, and in that 1997, I went to Tibet twice. I went to Egypt for the first time twice. I went to the Mayans. It was just the year of Patricia Cori. So I hope I've answered your question there.
Oh yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Incredible. So crop circles, so many questions on this topic for one, we won't spend too much time here, but for many years, I thought they were from inner earth. There's some descriptions of them coming from, of course, energy is all one location. It's non-local, but who is making these? Is it a collection of beings? Is it Gaia sometimes? What's the crop circle from? Who is it from?
I can tell you what I understand it to be, and I never declare I know the truth because I'm in humility and never wanting to take away anybody else's imagination. And one thing that's really beautiful about the crop circle phenomenon, especially with researchers, is the respect to let people take what they will from it. So I can tell you what the Syrians say and what my experience is, and that's all. When I said I was called into it, it was because I was in England. I was taking a course in a college, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and a voice said, in the dream, I saw Stonehenge and this giant spiral next to it in the field. And a voice said, pay attention, this is a lock-on point for interdimensional communication, and it's going to be very important for you. Wake up now, you have work to do. So in the years, I have gone to the crop circles every year since then, except for this year. And I've been in hundreds of them. None of them will ever rival the first one, but I've been in hundreds of them. And what I have gleaned from this, and what the council have confirmed, is that what's happening here, it's not that a person or a group of people or ETs are sending down this information, but rather a collective consciousness in the ethos of higher beings that are trying to show the Homo sapiens, to remind us of our incredible birthright as highly evolved beings that were stripped of their DNA, which I think you want to get into today.
Yeah.
And that what better way to communicate wisdom and love and higher consciousness than sacred geometry. So the council say it's being beamed in by collective, look at my eyes go bigger because they always do when I imagine this, by this collective of highly evolved beings and multidimensional beings, visualizing, as we do in our visualizations, perfected geometry that can show the human race and animals, by the way, that there is divinity and consciousness in communion with us, the earth. And then it comes in as an electrical pulse. And then it also always seems to come in environments where there are aquifers or very high water level under the earth mantle. And so the councils say that it's coming in electric, and the design is being imprinted in the field, and then the water beneath the field is the magnet. And so it's the communication electric through the earth, boom, to the water draws down the plant, and there you have it. And that really worked for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very similar experiences to what you're describing, Patricia. I remember the first time that I was in England and visiting some of the crop circles. And I was there with a group of people, and we tuned in and we just invited whoever the crop circle makers were. And at that time, I didn't have any idea beyond that, to present a symbol that represented human awakening. And the next day, what appeared in the fields was a butterfly. Actually, there were two butterflies. One was a human butterfly, which appeared in Holland, and then one was a butterfly symbol. And this was the butterfly symbol. It was like we're emerging into the butterfly consciousness together.
Had you visualized the butterfly in that?
Then I met. Sorry?
Had you visualized the butterfly as the symbol of that
connection? No. You're just asking Gaia. Right. And then I think it was that trip or the next trip that I met one of the crop circle researchers, Jeff Stray. You might know him. And he had a theory that somehow this, the space where the circles emerge from is within the ionospheres, the noosphere. So which Teilhard de Chardin referred to as the noosphere, which is basically the mental body of Gaia. And so this can be used by anybody, but can be used by Gaia herself, could be used by elemental kingdoms, it could be used by the human collective, it could be used by extraterrestrial beings, but basically it's something that wants to emerge into human consciousness to serve this awakening. And you know what he said also was very similar, that plasma descends attracted to the aquifer below the soil. So a lot of the places where crop circles are formed happen to be in chalk regions. So chalk attracts water, and that attracts plasma. And people often see these crop circles being created. So there's these little balls of plasma spinning around, and then 3 seconds later, the whole design pops in.
You know,
it kind of represents how creation happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Thomas, who is a real master, he's been around a bit longer than I was as far as getting into the fields. Mm-hmm. He also adheres to the idea of the aquifers. He's more scientific than I am, so he charted out where all the crop circles have been over time, and it's like 90% of them are in the regions of aquifers in England. So that is pretty much interesting information. But as I said before, at the beginning, that preface that I made is, I've been around every researcher, all of them, and a lot of I used to bring people into the formations too, and the beautiful thing about it is we all have theories. And what Andy said, which I love, is when he's got the, he's really British, and he says, well, the thing about it all is we don't have to have the right answer, do we? At least we're thinking about multidimensionality. And that is just the wonder of the crop circles. They've brought us to think about it. Something's going on here. And I love that. And it's just so many people are loving the mystery of it. I hope we never have the answer, to be honest. I don't want the answer. I want us to be still roaming about in these fields wondering, because that is the joy and the union and the breathtaking aspect of coming together with each other and questioning. One of my mantras is, I don't want the answer, I want the question. I want to
right question. And in a way, this represents a journey right now. We're moving into this new space of creation. We're co-creating this time in a very profound and honored way. And so what do we wish to co-create? Can we join with Gaia? And this also brings us back to the cetaceans, because they are co-creators with us, as is every species on this planet. Every species has its own part to play. within this play of life. And so can we join with the heart of Gaia? Can we join with the soul of Gaia in a way that we can affirm her plan, her evolutionary destiny? And what is that? So, this to me is a time that, there's so much richness, and it seems to be chaotic, it seems to be dark sometimes, but this is what it takes. It's like the womb of creation is dark. We go in deep into the inconscient, that space where no one has been before. We go deep into the shadows where we've refused to face ourselves in our own light and our darkness. And then something emerges which we just have to, trust and follow.
Well, the Sirius Council say it's easy to shine light amongst the light. Your intent for being light workers on the planet is to shine light into the dark corners. That's what you came to do. And so to do that, we have to acknowledge it. We have to be okay with acknowledging darkness rather than fearing it, and knowing that we came here to dismantle it, to release it, and according, however, with its own karmic. I'm one to be very careful of not sending everything into the light as if I were the entitled healer that knows what everything is supposed to be doing. So my intention in all of my work is to set the highest good for all concerned in according with the karmic destiny of each and all. And in the meantime, to spread as much, to be a lighthouse, to spread as much love, because love, you don't have to qualify love. You don't have to think it over. You don't have to figure it out. It just is. So easy.
Yeah, terrific. And no, good preface, Patricia. And Kiara and I, we maybe didn't preface today, but we always say this, I absolutely agree, is don't take our word for it, folks. We are just the messengers of different messages at different points in our journey. And the key is that you find the absolute truth for you and embody that. And hopefully that will be close to the light. But anyway, no, good preface. Let's not change gears, but maybe go on a different strain, different channel. I want to know, as Kiara and I have done, not a deep dive, but a relatively, maybe a surface level dive into the origins of the human genome, human DNA. And maybe we won't find that out fully until we're more connected to the sort of the super consciousness realm kind of thing. But and Kiara and I have sort of talked about this a little bit. We've seen that in our research that a lot of an intuition, the human DNA was brought here many, probably millions of years ago now, by different star nations, by different off-planet races. And of course, it's changed over time and been manipulated and then all sorts of stuff. But what are some of your thoughts on the origins of the human genome? Because I know the Syrians were greatly attached to that and involved with it. What's sort of your overview of that origin?
Well, that's funny that you're asking me this question because I've been working on it all day in a presentation. According to the Syrians, and I would like to just mention the name of the book that really elaborates this, and that's Atlantis Rising, the Struggle of Darkness and Light. The council explained how they were the organizers. Syrians were the organizers of what was called the Syrian experiment. And the intention was to birth, so we're in accordance here, to birth a super race, Homo sapiens, the illuminated 12-stranded Christed beings walking in and on a planet, not in a planet, but they did end up inside the planet as well. On a planet that was the true Garden of Eden. We're talking about over 100,000 years ago. So that Earth was virginal in many ways. Imagine Earth 100,000 years ago. And that they believed that nesting a super race using the DNA from Homo erectus and then bringing in different DNA from different highly evolved civilizations, species that were evolved Christed ETs and multidimensional beings as well, energies as well, to create the 12-stranded walking Christ. And they even said something that I found fascinating, that we were intended to be actually the guardians of the solar system, the physical environment of the galactic perspective. But then that was interfered with, which is quite a long story, again elaborated in that book, by beings that did not want the planet to host that much light for their reasons, which had to do with actually their own salvation, not necessarily evil. I'm talking about Nibiru and how this planet is careening between Sirius and our star, and they're trying to rope themselves electronically to the Earth, and to do that they need to lower the frequencies of Earth. So that's what we're battling with in a way right now. And by putting that electromagnetic grid around the planet, they zapped 10 strands of our DNA. So it's been a process we've been going through a very long time, and now we're starting to recognize that it's time to reassemble the so-called junk DNA. 80% of our DNA or more they call junk. And I find it very comical that science poo-poos spirit and says we're woo-woo, and then they get away with saying that 80% of creation is junk, and 80% of our brains is gray, and they kind of have evolution figured out except for the missing link. So I say, well, let's merge science and spirit and get a clearer picture. And that's my understanding of the seeding of our species on the planet.
Excellent. Yeah, it fits in with so much of what Kiara and I have been talking about. That's brilliant. Where do the Syrian wars kind of fit into this? Do you have any info on that?
I don't know much about Syrian wars because I'm dealing with six-dimensional beings from Sirius B who evolved to the sixth dimension when they went through their own ascension. But I am aware that the Orion belt is a very difficult space. There's a lot of warring ETs, a confluence in that part of space. And Sirius has its connection to Orion. We know that if you follow the Orion belt down the horizon, and you'll find Sirius. So I understand that Sirius was sort of pulled into wars, galactic wars that were between different races and species and planetary beings, having to do with Orion, having to do with rights and territory wars and things like that. But I don't know, I would be bluffing to say that I know specific information about that.
Well, you mentioned Sirius B, and the Dogon tribes in Kenya have their stories about the descent of the cetaceans from Sirius B. And so when they first arrived to this planet and then eventually made their way to the sea, and this is perhaps before the humans or before, I'm not sure if it is before.
What happened is that it was the Dogon tribes in West Africa that had a craft come down, the elders, very mystical tribe. And the craft opened and they threw down a lake, and beings came out of the craft, jumped into the water, and then when they came up to the Dogon out of the water, they were dolphin fish humans, and they called them the Nomo. And they explained to the Dogon, and this is documented, that Sirius A was not the only star. There were other two stars, and they talked about Sirius B and how it was it had gone through its process, I think what they said, and that what was remaining was a skeleton of highly dense matter. And they were trying to explain to them that that's why the star wobbles. It's not just one star. So as you know, the astronomers found out many years later that in fact there is a highly dense star interacting with Sirius A, which is Sirius B. And the council say, well, yeah, it's not that it went into supernova, it's just that the spirit of the star ascended to the sixth dimension, and what's left is the skeleton, and let that be a representative of the macro microcosm of your own bodies. Stars have astral cords. They go to the higher dimensions through their astral cords, and that is what supernova is. And behind what's left is this super dense material that's actually the skeleton of a star that has ascended.
So, Patricia, have you heard the theory that our sun is also linked with Sirius? So, Sirius is a twin star for our own sun. And so, this is one reason so many old cultures have been so connected with Sirius, and also the tradition behind the yugas in the Hindu tradition. So, what they say is that our sun takes a twin around which it moves, around which it circulates as it moves through the galaxy. So our sun and Sirius make this circle around the center of the galaxy, and as that happens, we pass from ages of darkness into ages of light. And so there's a researcher, Walter Cruttenden, who's done enormous research into how the precession of the equinoxes fits right into how these twin stars circulate around each other in their journey around the center of this galaxy. And then when you have these galactic waves emanating out from the center of the galaxy, passing through our solar system and the Sirian solar system, that is what generates these pulses of evolution.
Well,
so
bear in mind also that Sirius is the closest star to our star.
Right.
So
right.
there's an incredible dynamic of energy between them. And right now, Nibiru, the planet that in question, Planet X, was ejected, according to the Syrians, by when the third Sirian star, which is they call Anu, Sirius C, was discovered, right? And so you've got Sirius A is in the third dimension, Sirius B is in the sixth dimension, and Sirius C, which is a problem, is in the fourth dimension. And when it ascended to the fourth dimension, this planet, Nibiru, which was one of the planets that orbited that star, got expelled from the process and went careening back. And fascinating cosmic movement. It went careening. Imagine the speed, the energy. It's hard to even visualize. It tried to get back into the orbit of Sirius A, and it was so fast and so extraneous that it got expelled, and it went careening over to our star. So Sitchin describes this planet coming in and then leaving, but he never describes where from. And the Syrians say it's coming from Sirius. It comes flinging back into our Earth, and then it flings back out every 21,000 something years, right? Fascinating stuff. So even that is a connection, because we have this this planet dependent, trying to pick up enough energy to make it from back and forth, trying to find its way back into a solar system where it can hold before it burns out.
Amazing.
Complex information, but very exciting.
Not at all. No, absolutely. Really cool stuff. Okay, well, let's move on. I was going to have a 3-hour podcast there, which is fine, but I'm very cognizant of your time, Patricia.
You can always take it apart.
Yeah, we may well have to. The important question for me is this: your little set behind you there looks very, very Zen is probably the wrong word. Very what's the word? Very connected. A beautiful space you have. But there's one thing I want to ask you about behind it. There's an angry bird on the the windowsill there. What's that about?
The angry bird is there because it reflects the wonderful duality of human emotion, the expanse of human emotion. And so part of me is absolutely Buddha, and part of me is feisty. And I want anyone who decides that it's going to be a interference. It's part of my protection system. It's like, just remember the bird is there.
Amazing. I love it.
I love the humor of it. And I love that I have on one side the Buddha, which is my probably the closest thing to religion that I can possibly feel. I'm absolutely Buddhist. But I love that angry bird over there, just, holding that space as well, and bringing in humor and bringing in strength and guardianship.
It's so good.
And thank you for loving my space. It's a wonderful space.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk. Of course, really cool. Thanks for sharing that. And let's talk about your latest book, or your newest book, 2017. I think it was released. I think I'm right with that. The New Sirian Revelations, and it's galactic prophecies for the ascending human collective. How did that birth? Where does that come from? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it was time, and sometimes the work that I do with the Sirians is really kind of remarkable in that I don't just decide I'm going to channel. They let me know when it's time. And so a few years had passed since I'd done any work for them, and I'm very busy. I'm a screenwriter. I've done a novel. I've got lots of projects going on. And people started saying, when are we going to get more information from the Sirians? It's been so long. And I thought, oh God, it's coming, because it's all, as you said, we're all co-creating this. So when the comments started coming, when are we going to hear from the Sirians? I thought, that's it. It's coming. And sure enough, I got the 4 a.m. wake-up call, and they said the title of the new book is. And my publisher, I said, I think I've got a new book here coming. And they were just great, because they actually published and republished all of my books. So I had no question. It was an automatic contract to get it done. And they said, as long as you can get it done in 9 months. I said, Gak, 9 months? Are you kidding me? And they said, Patricia, you always come in ahead of schedule. What's the problem? I go, 9 months for a Sirian book? This is intense stuff. And I agreed. And for 6 months, this is really a true story on my mother's soul. I used to just sit in the morning and wait, nothing. And so I said, I don't mean to be rude here, but I got the wake-up call. I got all ready for you, set up and ready to go. Where have you gone? Why am I getting nothing here? Nothing. And I decided I was either not in the right frequency. I had been going through some personal stuff, so I knew that was part of it. They were letting me clear it all out. I had a big breakup at that time. And, in order for me to reach the purity of that wonderful collective, I have to be resolved. I'm always amazed at people that are going through hysteria and manage to pop into a channel, but not me. And so it took me those 6 months to get myself together, and then bam, it started flowing. And there were 14, 16-hour days of just, I got that book done in 3 months. That is the most exciting thing. That book in 3 months is quite a feat.
Wow.
And it was pure, I don't claim to be a master. I'm just the scribe here. But even still, the process of being able to connect and use my brain and my spirit for that many hours a day was very challenging. And it just poured right out. And I want you to know that in all the channel books I've done, I have never gone back. It's just flow right through. I stop in the middle of a paragraph. Next day, boom, picks it right back up. There's no human, let's say, or mental aspect to how to do this. They just do it. Mm-hmm. So it was very exciting, and it was very neat.
So how would you summarize this?
Pardon me?
So how would you summarize the book? You mentioned the galactic prophecies for this time. So what are these prophecies? How can we?
It's an update for taking up where the original material, which is so prophetic anyway. I mean, if you read the old Sirian Revelations, it's spot on for now. And it's the next step. It's what's coming. The Sirians have always referred to this difficult time as the desert days. And they've spoken about us evolving onto the horizon of our evolved, ascended consciousness, following getting through the desert days. So the book is about, okay, here you are, you're in the desert days now, here's what's coming. And they talk about the fall of the Kabul, the fall of the forces that are holding us in their claws. And it's beautiful. The Syrian information is exciting because it's got a lot of factual aspects to it that can be verified, that can be years later, you can say, wow, that was exactly what came about. And it's of spiritual essence, but it also provides enough of a scientific ground that it can be verified later. So they talk about parallel universes, and I think some of the most important information in this book is showing us what the fourth dimension looks like, showing us what the fiber of it is, helping us understand that at the time of that channeling, we were already experiencing the flutter of the fourth dimension around us. And now we're really know we're shifting into the fourth. And sometimes we can even say feeling absolute four-dimensional consciousness. And it's tough.
Well, this is really important for a lot of people too.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So what would the transition into the fourth and then the fifth look like from a collective perspective?
It looks like what's happening now. That is, we are feeling the time shift. The basic theory of the Syrians with regard to the fourth dimension is that it is the clearing station. It is the place where we face our karma, and that we delude ourselves. And I really have to drive this home. In a time when lots of people are saying they're fifth and sixth and seventh dimensional beings already, but they've got problems with the rent and they're fighting with their husband. And I'm like, yeah, wait a minute here. The fourth dimension is where we face ourselves, our karma, our shadow, and the civilization's shadow and karma as a society. So we're in this tough time where everything that has occurred on this planet, good and bad, it's all appearing at once. It's not every year now, it's not every month, it's every minute. There's all of the strife and stress and violence and conflict, all of it is in our faces globally. And as I also say, it's in our faces now, so we don't get to say, oh yeah, the poor people over there, poor things. It's in everybody's face. And that is essential to the shift that we need on this planet. Right? You can't go about your business and cut into your steak and really care that people are starving on a huge level on this planet until it's in your face. And in your face at the moment is, oh my God, there's a food shortage at the store, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, so that we're all in the same vibrational aspect of what that suffering means. And we need it. If we're ever going to have equality on this planet, we need to all feel it. I don't want to be suffering, but we need to have equality in that aspect. And that's what's going on now. We're feeling all of the rage and fear and destruction, and all of the beauty and the wisdom and the wonder of that aspect of us that is rising and liberating ourselves and ascending. So that is karma, the duality of the karma. And it's on a personal level and it's on a civilization level. And that's a very important part of that book, is helping us understand it and get through it. And that's what we're doing now. That's what's happening now. And this pandemic was a key factor in that happening. It had to happen because it had to get people. The experience said it's only when you're up against the wall that you act, that you move into action. When you're in your comfort zone, you get nothing done, nothing major done. So you're up against the wall now. and you're feeling it, and that's why you're rising. And it's very exciting, isn't it?
It is. Well, when you talk about facing the shadows, what I often look at is we're not just talking about the dark shadows, but also the light shadow.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to look at dark shadows, the unhealed aspects of ourselves that we need to look at collectively. But then there's also the light shadows, the beauty, the power,
Well, that's what
love,
I said.
the presence.
Yes,
All of that which we've also denied and projected.
And all of the greatness of civilization. Let's not forget the Renaissance, the high civilization of Egypt and Atlantis. It's we're not talking about karma only being bad. Karma is extraordinary. I personally feel I've earned a lot of good karma to have had such a blessed life, this life. And so many people, it's what we create, good and bad. And we need the good karma at the civilization level to help us anchor that light and remind us that, while we're dealing with this other level, we are beings of immense love, immense capability, and we're guided and loved and protected on so many levels. So this is it. This is the big show. We came in for this, and I just feel that we have to honor the fact that before we start gliding up into the fifth and sixth and higher dimensions, let us be completely aware of what this means to be passing through this fourth dimension, clearing it all out, facing it all, and by facing it, healing it, releasing it, and moving on.
Wonderful. Yeah. Go on, Kiara.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say
one quick thing.
Go on. No, go ahead.
When we're talking about going up this way, a lot of people feel that it's a journey, third, fourth, fifth, all in an ascending frequency. But in a sense, it's also about going deeper into the third, fourth, to face the deepest layers of everything that's been projected and denied. And then in the midst of all of that, of the dark night, there's the light of the fifth, sixth, seventh dimensional frequencies. So it's not necessarily, a linear progression or ascension, but also just like this descent into the divine that's already here. So matter, physicality is equally divine. Our psychological complexity is equally divine. So to truly understand that, to really accept that, acknowledge that, and allow that, opens up the door.
Terrific. Yeah, and it can be, it's a challenge, but seeing the light. If you can see the light, that's amazing, and focus on it and hold the space, great. But can you see the light within the light? Now that's another story for another time, another conversation for another time. But that's the dissensioning and then going in more. And it's a wider topic. But it can be a challenge right now because people like us, we're talking about facing the shadows and addressing them, and an extremely important topic for individual karmic and energetic resolutions, and for the collective, and for Gaia, all linked together. And we talk about it a lot, but we don't say, well, I've talked about this with Magenta Pixie a lot, actually, on a different show, but she's coming back on in a week or so. But what's the transformation process in your eyes, Patricia, to transforming the energy? Because there is a little bit of a trap here with when you face the energies, face your own demons, face your shadows, and then transform them, is that we can get pulled back into some of the shadows again. There's a little bit of a trap there. And I know we all sort of go back and forth with it. One of those can be going into the news, for example, although you shouldn't necessarily turn a blind eye to some stuff. But what's the transformation process of addressing, in your opinion, and everyone's different, but just from your journey, facing the shadows, transforming it, and then moving to somewhere? What's that sort of process for you?
I think that, I don't know if I'm going to be answering this specifically, but I'll give it a shot. I think that we have the opportunity to create heaven on earth, and that if we can't do that, if we're not able to find the beauty on this planet, then we're just massaging ourselves, talking about being ascended beings and being in these other dimensions and light, and however we define light, inner light, love, etc. If you cannot feel joy and love with all of this turmoil around you, and if you cannot exhibit and share and emanate that love, then I think you're fooling yourself about ascending to a higher state of consciousness. It's here. It doesn't matter what dimension it is. It's 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. It's always about love. Mm. And so I personally, I feel joy all the time. I really do, all the time. I celebrate waking up. I live in a beautiful place. It took something to get me here, but I was guided. I celebrate the fact that yesterday I went out and saved a butterfly that was entangled in a spider web on the bush. I celebrate the eyes of my dogs and the wonderful people that I encounter. And I don't fear that I'm going to fall back into the shadow. I don't fear shadow anyway. The key to everything is being past fear. And the answer to fearlessness is love. And so, to fear is love. And so to be in fearlessness, it's love. Love life. And I personally love being alive on this planet. When you may be, I don't know how old you are. You seem rather young to me. So I don't know if you've ever read Seth Speak.
No, but I've heard. Yeah, go on.
Okay. You're 20, 30 years old, maybe more. But this entity, wonderful channeled material. And this entity, Seth, was a man, and very comical, very deep, but that she was channeling, but also lots of humor. And he said, before you get all excited about ascending to other dimensions, he said, I want you to know what I would give to taste a beautiful Chianti, to have a delicious steak, to make love to a beautiful woman again, to laugh. And I thought, whoa, I got goosebumps just now, because I know that, I'm sure that part of being here is to love and appreciate the passage, the emotion, the beauty, and to remember it. And I always think of that when I leave this planet. I'm leaving with a kaleidoscope of beautiful moments and wonder and experience and joy. I'm not looking back and thinking, well, thank God I'm past the third dimension. I'm looking at every flower and all the gifts. This is a beautiful place. And we get mental. We start thinking, oh, well, I want to ascend to higher dimensions, and I'm done with 3D disharmony. It's like, really? If you can't find the harmony in this location, you're not going to create it anywhere else. Get to work. I agree. I hope I've answered that question, because that's how I feel. I feel extremely blessed, because we all have hardship, and I've had mine, but mostly my life has been a joyous ride, and I'm in my power now. I'm in the third triad of my life, the best, and in a beautiful world. And I don't care what the outer crisis is. I do my best to imprint it with love and goodness and information, but I stand tall. Proud and happy to be in this dimension, aware that the dimensions are inside of me anyway. It's not somewhere you're going to go, it's within you. And so create beauty. Get over the dimension concept. Create beauty around you, within you. Every cell, every molecule is divinity. And honor that. You don't have to worry about falling into that.
Yeah. Yeah, Patricia, when I hear that, to me that's like bringing it home to the heart, bringing it home to the body. And it's about descension of the spirit, because so much of the time you're talking about ascension from the level of personality, from the level of human density. But we are already spirit. We're already divine. But it's about bringing ourselves into embodiment, being fully present here and now in this dimension, all the way down. It's not just about higher dimensions, but these dimensions, and bringing that same light. So there's no duality here either.
Yeah,
And
so that we're not all mental. I mean, I see a lot of people getting very mental about this process. And sometimes I feel, I wonder if I'm just too simplistic. But for me, I don't care about death because I've already experienced it and come back. So I have no fear of that. I don't care what dimension I'm going to be on because I'm on this one at the moment and I'm loving it. And I just really hope that people think about the fact that let's not make this process such a mental paradigm that we lose sight of the fact, as you just said, Kiara, that it's about being present. It's about being in this moment. This is what you've got. Are you making it beautiful?
The message of the whales. What the whales have to.
On this island, I have fairy glens and all these beautiful places. And I walk up the hill and stop and stare at the flowers. And, there's a cow in the field watching me watch the flowers. And it's just this beautiful presence of loving, memorizing the beauty here. Because wherever I'm going next, I want to say, look at my kaleidoscope of my last stop. Mm-hmm. And I pray that other people celebrate that too and just honor this third dimension, this fourth dimension. Call it what you want. Be present. This is a beautiful world we have here. Don't miss it. Mm-hmm. Aspiring to higher states of being.
Mm. Tremendous. Yeah, it was so good. Patricia, I'm absolutely on your frequency, as is Kiara. We talk about this quite a bit. And, the journey that we are on now, ascension, descension, the whole gamut, is really about, because being present is being in presence. It's kind of, they're both the same, one and the same thing to a large degree. And the intellectual, one of the transitions right now that we're going through is we've been living so much through the ego, the intellectual mind, which is, and the goal is never to get rid of the ego, it's to love it in submission and then integrate that into presence, as Jeff Dunphy will talk about, that we've got coming on next week as well. It's just wonderful, wonderful commentary and teachings on this. And it is about, like what you said, Patricia, I'm in exactly the same emotion that sometimes I just have to let people who are not in that state of seeing nothing but God. That's what you're talking about, is just seeing nothing but God in all. Now, that's not to say that you don't recognize maybe some bad stuff that's going on, but you're seeing through the frequency or the filter of love, through the filter of God and the Christ state within, which means you're transforming the perception of what is bad, that's where we need to be. So by doing that, you're actually, through quantum entanglement, you're quickening the collective just by embodying that presence. You're making a massive impact in the ascension of this Homo sapien movement, which is really why we've come here as souls at this time. Some of us is to bring back, and I said this last week, to bring back the awareness of the importance of, as you said, Patricia, the not the perfect being, the Sirian experiment, the Earth experiment, but the potential of the 12-stranded and beyond Homo sapien physical being with soul-infused personality. And that's one of the reasons why we're here right now. And that, what you're talking about, is the path to that. It is that. And it's just a beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that. Very powerful. And I absolutely agree.
And thank you for what you just said also, which is very profound.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm learning from you guys. And thank you for saying that about me being young. I've decided recently that I'm reverse aging. So I shall be reverse aging 1 year every year.
We're probably both over 100 and we just see a hologram of each other.
Right. I mean, I've just got through the books behind me here. I'm actually not quite through yet, but book 6 of Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East by Baird Spalding. Wonderful series. And talking about all of this stuff, about seeing And Deus solus, the Latin translation, nothing but God. That's one of my mantras right now. And it talks about India a lot, but across the planet, there are people, or in human form, in Homo sapien form, there are people who are 300, 400, 500, 600 years old, who look 30, 40 years old. They're all over the planet. Now, they're not in the mainstream media for obvious reasons, because I won't go into that. But the ability that we have to reverse age, to be youth, is within us right now, and we just have to recognize that and embody it. So I have decided that I'm going to forget birthdays, and I'm going to a large degree, and I'm going to reverse age. So get ready for that.
For finding out that I'm really 300 years old.
Well, you and Kiara as well. You look very youthful. So I'm sure we're all doing this right now, and many of us are, is by forgetting age. Not that it's a bad thing, or forgetting
I think that it's just such an old paradigm. And this pursuit of youth culture is so plastic. And the fact that it's become so plastic really drives home how useless, how futile that pursuit is. And with these plastic faces, you just see how graceful it is to honor the process of aging and time passing, and just being alive, being full of life, and by the way, being not full of medications and medicine and pharmaceuticals and drugs and vaccines helps a lot. But my approach is just like I look in the mirrors and sometimes I go, oh my God, what happened there? It just seems like something shifted overnight. But I find humor in it. And I find humor in a lot of things. I think I must have been an old laughing Buddha in a former life.
I can see that. Yeah, I can totally see that in you. Just quickly, go on.
No, I was saying, Patricia, you remind me so much of another friend of mine who's also called Patricia, who also has such a joyful presence around her in the midst of everything. So
I'd love to meet her.
She was in a car accident where she was in and out of her body, and she came out of that in hospital, and she wouldn't fill out the insurance form because the insurance form said, it compensates you for pain and suffering. And she said, I'm not experiencing pain. I'm not experiencing pain, yes, but not suffering. So it's like that idea that suffering is something we create in the mind. Pain is something we might experience in the body, but it doesn't become suffering unless we choose to make it so.
Oh, true. That's beautifully stated. Thank you for that. I was saying that I went through a big breakup, and my guides had shown me the way to this island way back, and I bought this house without having a clue what I was going to do with it. With my last pennies, I managed to get a mortgage and buy this little house, which was a shack at the time. And when the breakup came, I was shocked. I didn't see it coming. I was too distracted with my work to recognize that the relationship was failing. So long story short, I said, okay, what do I do now? Because I've been with this man for 30 years. And I thought, wow, this is new. And all I knew to do was to pack up and move to the island and figure it out later. So I had several friends say, well, Patricia, you're still beautiful. You're still young enough to find a man. And it was so foreign to me, this concept. I said, why would you say that? Who needs a man? I don't need to find a man. I'm finding myself. And I'm going to a place where I can do just that and get my balance back. I don't want to replace something. I want to take the next step in my life. And have to say that it's the best time of my life. I think part of the reason why I'm laughing all the time is because I don't have a man. I'm just, sorry. Have the wonderful experience of being my own master and knowing the joy of that. And so I don't know why I got off on that track, but
oh, beautiful. Well, this is
for all of you to hear about, because you're right, so much of people's concern these days is about, you know, finding the right woman, finding the right man, finding the right relationship. There's a whole list of things that goes with it. And you get stuck on the list rather than being present, and rather than being in joy, and rather than connecting with the inner male, female, whatever it is, and recognizing also that I am not this, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm not either polarity. I just simply am the presence of God, the presence of love, the presence of beauty, joy, all of that, but allowing myself to embrace that fully. And if we can embrace that fully, you know, then if you're looking for, or not looking for, but if it's in your destiny to attract the right person into your life, that happens. Not because you're searching for it or going after it, but because you're radiating something that attracts something magical and resonant. And that's the way life is. You know, so much of life has been about chasing after, whether it's chasing after relationships, chasing after enlightenment, or even chasing after a better world, rather than just being that here and now.
So true. That's beautiful. And, you know, the perennial search for the soulmate. It's exhausting for people. Are you my soulmate? Well, how will I know if I meet my soulmate? Where is my soulmate? When am I going to meet my? It's just, you may not. When I do readings for people, and they ask me that question, you haven't mentioned my soulmate. Am I going to meet my soulmate? You may not. What are you going to do with yourself if you don't meet your soulmate? Oh, you know, it's a construct. It's a social construct that everyone has to meet their soulmate. Meet yourself. Step into the room with yourself and celebrate that. You are your own soulmate. And I'm seeing that at this time where people are really struggling, there seems to be a move away from that I got to have the perfect relationship mentality. And people are really looking into themselves. There's an existential crisis going on here. And the crisis part is the difficult side, and the existential moment, the existential opportunity is the other side. And so, yeah.
Amazing.
People are examining the meaning of life and the purpose of life and the mission that they came with.
Well, this is the, and we'll move into sort of a close here, but this is the path of, I hate to say ascended mastery, because no ascended master ever actually titled themselves ascended master. It's really from us. But the path to self-mastery, which I think you mentioned, Patricia, a moment ago, and that is to become detached, and many things, but to become detached to attachment, and to become attached to detachment, and to become attached to nothing but connected to everything. And that's such an important mantra for me to remember, because there are ego things that pull us back into the ego mind, the intellectual mind, which is not a bad thing, but that connection piece is really important, especially at this time, to hold the light and hold the frequency. So, but great conversation, guys, really powerful. What we normally do, Patricia, is and I will throw this into Kiara, and you're welcome to stay. We'll do a meditation at the end of every podcast just to align energies and end on that wonderful frequency. But I want to ask you just before we do, is there one thing? What's the one thing? Is there a message? Is there something you want to share, maybe from the Sirian High Council or from you, to people that are listening at this time for humanity? Is there something that you want to share particularly?
I always get stumped when people ask me that.
It's a terrible question. I'm sorry.
I really think that the overriding message that I have is, take a look around you, get into nature, look at the structure of a flower. I mean, you cannot be depressed. You cannot be in ego mind or projecting into a future that it could not exist. Be in that moment, look at a flower, look at the sacred geometry within it, smell it, look at the beauty, recognize that it is designed to attract a bird or a bee or an insect to keep everything spinning and rolling in divine, beautiful order. And when you're thinking the world is in chaos, remember there is order in chaos and that you're being distracted. And the big picture is the little picture, the flower, the bird. I mean, when I saved that butterfly, I was thinking, I'm so sorry for the spider because I'm picking away its food, but I just can't help I just can't help interfering here. And being present of everything and the interactivity, the interrelationship of life and all beings. And you won't have time to be drowned down, as you said earlier, pulled back into the shadow. You won't have time. You'll be too busy celebrating life, the creation, the palette of this artist, creator, God. I mean, what infinite beauty. That's what I have to say. Seek beauty, strive to be happy. And in the words of the Desiderata, it is still a beautiful world.
It is. Well said. Wonderful message. That's a great poem. I need to reread that. I've read it for years. So good. So good. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, Patricia. Magical stuff, magical conversation, and just a great dialogue here. Kiara, I want to, unless you've got any further questions, throw in Age of Pandora style the mic over to you, my friend, to lead us out with one of your beautiful meditations.
Well, once again, from my part, also, I'd like to really thank you, Patricia. You feel like an old friend.
Yes, you do. I can't wait to talk to you more. Both of you. Yeah, wonderful to reconnect here.
And I'm so glad we can share this journey together. And it's a collective journey. And when you talk about soulmates, we're really talking about soul families. And this is the journey we came here. We can't do it alone. We have to do it together, but not in a dependent kind of way, but in a supportive and allowing way that allows each of us to be gloriously alive and present. So that's our journey. And, I love the way you celebrate this earth and Gaia and all the beings that you're constantly meeting around you, from the butterfly to the whales.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you for your beauty. Thank you for the joy that you carry. And, once again, if I'm sure my friend Patricia will be watching this at some point. And like I said, yeah.
Maybe next time we can you both can come on with Patricia on my show.
Oh yes, of course. I'd love to.
I'd love that.
Delighted to. Yeah, just let us know when, and
okay.
We'll be on.
Yeah, we'd love to. Thank you. All right, Kiara, 10 minutes. Flow us in, flow us out.
All right, so just connecting with that space within the heart that connects with an entire universe. A universe that's seeking to be born each moment and reborn again and again within us and through us each moment. And so much gratitude for this space, for this time, for this world in which we can dance and create and play and connect and open and feel. And as the Incas always invite us, we open the doors to the upper world inviting those electrical frequencies of light to pour in through all of the subtle bodies, through our physical bodies, down into the earth, like a living waterfall of light. So just now, as we are speaking, the rain is starting to pour in outside the window. It's like a huge thunderstorm and downpour. And of course, the universe always reflects the inner and the outer. And then a response from the earth. So as these electrical frequencies, the waterfall of light connects deep into the heart of the earth, there's a magnetic response. Unconditional love, joy, healing, beauty, presence. And this magnetic energy moves up through our bodies, physical, subtle, causal, and then out through that window to the sky. And as these electrical and magnetic frequencies interact with each other, we enter into the stillness, into the spaciousness. And in that spaciousness, as we reconnect with our hearts, we go down deeper. And we discover within our own hearts the heart of the earth, the heart of the universe. And there's only one of us here. Divine Presence. The one presence that moves through all dimensions, all stories, all events, all circumstances, all forms. And we see these beautiful reflections of ourselves every place we look. And the deeper in we go, the more joy, the more presence, the more love. And into this space now we invite the presence of the whales and the dolphins. Their way of being, their way of resonating, their way of seeing, and the service that they give to the earth and to all the species within the earth, to bring the songs of Gaia alive. In such a deep way, the whales and the dolphins represent the heart of Gaia, that feeling body, the oceans, and their presence within the oceans. The first time I swam with whales in Hawaii, this mother whale taught me to open up the space behind the back of the head. And she said there's a new chakra that's forming in humanity. So together, let's become aware of that. So about half a meter behind the back of the head. As you stay connected in your heart, you also become aware of that space. And from that space, you open out in concentric circles. Feeling the entire planet inside you. Feeling the entire solar system within you. Experiencing yourself as the entire galaxy. And continuing to expand out to fill the entire physical universe. And then beyond those boundaries of time and space, that matrix of creation, and experiencing yourself as the oneself within and beyond creation. And just like the butterfly, the galactic butterfly, the human butterfly, we are that butterfly consciousness awakening. We're transitioning from a species that's been feeding and growing externally, gobbling up everything in our path, to entering into that cocoon, becoming still, and opening to the great unknown. That's already being birthed inside. Such a beautiful privilege to be here, to be in service as a midwife. It's a new butterfly species, Homo luminous. And we give our allegiance to this. We give our allegiance to Gaia, to serve, to protect, to honor, to love. We give our allegiance to all of creation. To hold and to honor as the reflections of the oneself. A new world is being born, and this great planetary initiation that we're going through, however chaotic and dark the path may be, is the way. We're remembering, we're awakening. And so thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey. And blessings and love and joy wherever you go, whoever you are.
Thank you, Kiara. Well, those who are meditating with us, start to slowly come back, and when you're ready, you feel called to do so, open your eyes and ease back into the space. I'm going to call that one the dolphin meditation. I think, Kiara, that was beautiful. Streams of emotion as you brought those energies in. I could see them, I could feel them. Something brought a tear or two to my eyes. So thank you for that. Just magic. My words don't find what I need to find to express the emotions from that. That's very powerful. So thank you, my brother of light. Just beautiful as ever. Patricia, again, thank you for your presence as we move into a wrap of the show here. Thank you for everything you brought today. Of course, we will reload this, and there's lots more conversations to go between us, I'm sure. I feel that. But give the viewers a little bit of a hold on, let me just unpin Kiara here. Give the viewers a little bit of a, I'm back on now. A reference where they can find you. I think they can still book sessions with you. I think you still do sessions, if that's correct. Where can people get hold of you?
My main website is patriciacori.com. I have a pretty active YouTube channel, so they should look me up on YouTube. And all of the books are available online, Amazon. You just put my name, Patricia Cori, in to the Amazon search, and you'll get the whole plethora of books to order. And to book a private session, you can contact me through my site, patriciacori.com.
Terrific. Well, I can't wait to dive into your books. I've got a bit of a waiting line for them, but very excited for them. All the links in the description, folks. Please do go and check out Patricia. Go and check out her work. You'll be blessed by everything she's done. She's got just an amazing track record of work, and you really will be blessed by her teachings. But of course, as we close here, we thank you watching this for your presence. We thank you for your attention. We are honored to be with you, and we are again blessed to receive messages, comments from you. We do our best to return them. If we don't, we are sorry. We're just trying to get back to everyone as soon as we can. But thank you for joining us today. Patricia, thank you for joining us. Kiara, is there anything you want to close out with in final comments? No, that's fine. Okay, we're out of time. But thank you for joining us, guys. Tune in next week. We've got some wonderful guests coming on again. Patricia will be back on the show. I know she will. Maybe we'll join her as well. But yeah, lots of love, lots of light, and we'll see you next time.